Vasilisa and the Wooden Doll. In a certain kingdom, in a certain land, there once lived a merchant and his wife. They had been married for 12 years and had a lovely daughter named Vasilisa. When Vasilisa was 8 years old, her mother fell sick and it seemed that she would not recover. She called Vasilisa to her bedside and, tucking her curl behind her ear, said, "Dear child, before I die, there is something I want to give you." And she placed a little wooden doll in Vasilisa's hand. "Take this doll as my blessings. If anything bad happens to you, give it something to eat and drink and ask it for guidance. But be careful, don't tell anyone about it." Shortly afterwards, she died. Seasons passed, the birch tree turned the color of flame, and then one day all its leaves were covered with snow. Vasilisa and her father grieved for many days. Then one new leaves appeared on trees and rivers melted and bird song was in the air. Vasilisa's father decided to remarry. It would do Vasilisa good to have a mother too, he thought. There was no dearth of proposals for him, as he was a good man and wealthy as well. He chose a widow who had two daughters, a little older than Vasilisa. But from the moment the stepmother and her daughters came into the house, they were cruel and nasty to Vasilisa, as they were very envious of her beauty. They gave her difficult tasks to perform, hoping that toil would make her thin and worn out, and the sun and wind would burn and blemish her delicate skin. Vasilisa's beauty, however, never dimmed, and she grew lovelier with each passing day, white like milk and red like blood. But her stepsisters, with all the comforts and means at hand, grew as plain and homely as common crows. Every night, after everyone had gone to their rooms to sleep, Vasilisa would lock her door and take out her little wooden doll from her pocket. She would give her some food and say, "There, my little kukla, eat a little, drink a little, and listen to my grief. I miss my mother sorely, and my stepmother hates me and wishes I was dead. Tell me, what shall I do? How should I behave?" The doll's eyes would light up like fireflies, and it would suddenly come alive. It would eat and drink and look tenderly at Vasilisa. "Don't cry, I'm here now. You are stronger than you realize. We will finish all the tasks tomorrow. Lie down now and close your eyes. Morning is wiser than evening." So Vasilisa would lie down, feel comforted, and go to sleep. In the morning, she would finish all the tasks with the doll's help. The doll even told her how to make from a certain herb an ointment which prevented sunburn. Time passed, and Vasilisa and her stepsisters came of marriageable age. Suitors from near and far came to ask for Vasilisa's hand. No one was interested in these stepsisters. So plain and ill tempered they were. This fueled the stepmother's anger even further, and she sent every gallant youth packing. "Shoo, go away," she would say to them. "First, my daughters will be married, and only then will Vasilisa be wed." Then she would take out all her jealousy and spite on Vasilisa and make her work even harder, and rebuke and reprimand her. It so happened that one day the merchant had to go to a distant town on work. He was barely out of sight when his wife sold the house, packed all their belongings, and moved with the three girls to another dwelling far from the village at the edge of a dark forest. The stepmother knew that deep in the heart of this forest stood a wooden hut on chicken legs where lived the great and terrible witch grandmother, Baba Yaga. She was a mistress of magic, and if you annoyed her, she would have you for supper. Every day the stepmother sent Vasilisa near the forest on one errand or another, either to find a flower or gather berries or firewood. She secretly hoped that one day Vasilisa would accidentally stray into the little hut and be devoured by Baba Yaga. But every day Vasilisa came home safe and sound, for her doll showed her where to go and where not to stay. One evening, the stepmother called the three girls to her. She gave each one a task to do: one to make a lace tablecloth, another to knit a pair of stockings, and the third, Vasilisa, to weave a shawl. They had to finish their task before the night was over. The girls started to do their work under the light of a single lamp, and the mother went to sleep. Many hours passed. Suddenly, the wick in the lamp spluttered, and one of the daughters went to straighten it. Then, as her mother had instructed her, she snuffed it out. "Oh no, the candle is out," she exclaimed. "What do we do now? There's a hut in the forest that has light. One of us will have to go there and get it. It does not have to be me, for I can see my needle in the dark." "Not me either," said the first sister. "I can see my lace pins in the dark." They looked at Vasilisa and told her to go and get the light. Vasilisa walked to the forest. It was a dark night, and the trees seemed to stand around her like a fortress. She entered and was cut off from the world outside. Her heart was thumping. She did not know where to go. Then she took out her doll, fed it some food, and asked it to guide her. The doll said, "Be bold, be brave, young Vasilisa. This may be your final test. I am with you and will guide you, and together we will get through this dark night." It told her what paths to follow, and slowly Vasilisa inched her way in, stumbling sometimes on gnarled roots and rocks, but picking herself up and moving on. No one can tell if she walked a short way or a long one. The telling is easy, the journey hard. As she trudged along, suddenly out of nowhere a rider came towards her. It was a sight to behold. Dressed all in white, he sat atop a white steed, his face radiating white light. As he passed, the first light of dawn appeared in the sky. The forest stirred from its slumber, birds chirped, and Vasilisa felt fresh and bright. The air was still chilly as Vasilisa walked on, and her hair was wet with dew. She thought about her mother as she made her long, lone journey. Her hand sought out her little doll and rested gently upon it. She wondered who lived in the hut and whether they would be kind. Suddenly she was jerked out of her reverie by the sound of hoofs clattering towards her. When the horseback rider came closer, she saw that the rider, his horse, his clothes, and harness were all a deep red. As he passed, the sun rose in the sky, and Vasilisa felt warm and dry. A new energy surged within her. She was very curious about the horsemen and how they came to be in the forest. Vasilisa walked on. Evening came, and still there was no hut in sight. Daylight faded. The forest was filled with shadows. An owl hooted somewhere in the distance. She brushed past an old birch, and its branches reached out to touch her face. She ran on and came to a clearing, and finally, before her, she saw the hut. The hut stood on chicken legs and was slowly rotating. It was surrounded by a fence made of human bones, and high up on each pole of the fence dangled a human skull. The lock on the gate was a sharp set of teeth in a huge human jaw. Grinning maliciously, Vasilisa shivered with fright and stood transfixed. She stood there, not knowing what to do, when suddenly another horseback rider passed by. He was dressed in black from head to toe and sat upon a horse the color of midnight. As he passed, night fell, and Vasilisa caught a flash of twinkle in his eyes. He rode up to the hut and vanished from sight. The night deepened and the skulls began to glow with light. The trees started heaving and moaning. Thunder roared and lightning flashed. Vasilisa looked up and saw a huge iron mortar flying towards her. Inside it sat a skeleton, thin old woman, pushing a gigantic pestle and sweeping away her tracks with a long silver birch broom. The mortar came to a halt beside Vasilisa, and the hag thrust her face into Vasilisa's. Her nose was long and curved, and her teeth sharp and pointed. Her wispy gray hair fell around her shoulders, and her eyes were intense and penetrating. Vasilisa noticed that the storm had abated as suddenly as it had started. She realized then that this was Baba Yaga, the enchantress that people spoke of. She wished she would live to tell her tale. Who are you, young girl? How do you dare come to my domain? Thundered Baba Yaga. Vasilisa swallowed. I am Vasilisa, she said. I have been sent by my stepmother's daughters to borrow light from you. She clutched the doll inside her pocket. May I please take it? You may, replied Baba Yaga, but first you have to work for me. If you do all that I say, I will give you a light. If not, I will have to eat you. And turning to her hut, she shrieked, Little hut, be still. Turn your back to the forest and your front to me. The hut screeched to a halt and turned around. The jaws unlocked, the gate swung open, and Baba Yaga rode in. Vasilisa followed, and the gate banged shut, and the jaws snapped tight behind her. Inside the hut, Baba Yaga threw herself down next to the stove, stretched out her bony legs, and said, I'm famished. Rustle up some supper for me, and mind you, it better be good, or I will make a tasty morsel out of you. Vasilisa ran around the hut. She roasted meat, baked fresh bread, brought out wine and kvass from the cellar, mixed some blueberries and sour cream together, and served the old woman everything on a platter. Baba Yaga ate heartily, enjoying every bit. She left some cabbage soup and a bread crust for Vasilisa to eat. Tomorrow, she instructed Vasilisa, you must clean the house, sweep the yard, fetch water from the well, and firewood from the forest. Brush my mares and prepare me a delicious meal. Then, she added, go to my granary, take a sack of wheat, and remove the chaff from it. If you don't complete all the tasks, I will cook you for dinner. After that, she lay down to sleep and began to snore loudly. Vasilisa took her doll out of her pocket, gave her something to eat, and said, Dear Kukla, please help me. Baba Yaga has given me impossible chores to do. If I fail, she will eat me. The doll comforted Vasilisa and said, Go to sleep now, Vasilisa. It's late. Mornings are wiser than evenings. Vasilisa lay down and was asleep in a flash. When she awoke next morning, the hut was empty. Baba Yaga had already left. She looked around. Everything was clean. The water fetched, firewood chopped, the mares brushed, and even the wheat separated from the chaff. The doll lay in her pocket quietly. Vasilisa was thrilled and sent a silent word of gratitude to her little wooden friend. Then she freshened up, ate, gathered wildflowers from the path outside. The hut was revolving slowly, and she drowsed the afternoon away. When she awoke, it was evening, and she began to prepare supper for her host. When night fell, a terrible gale arose, and Vasilisa knew that Baba Yaga was returning on her mortar and pestle. Baba Yaga entered the hut and looked around. Everything looked and smelled fresh and nice. There were flowers in a vase, and the smell of cooking made her mouth water. It seemed that the girl had done her task. Well done, Vasilisa. The house and yard are clean, But where is the wheat? Vasilisa took her to the granary. When Baba Yaga had checked it carefully, she clapped her hands and shouted, "Come, my faithful servants, come quickly and grind my wheat." Immediately, three pairs of hands appeared, seized the measure of wheat, and carried it away. As she ate, Baba Yaga told Vasilisa, "Tomorrow, too, you must do all the household chores and weave some yarn. Then go to my storehouse, pick a sack of poppy seeds, and clean them one by one. Some mischief maker has mixed dirt in them to spite me when I want you to make them absolutely clean. If you fail, remember either I will dine on you or your head will be on a stake in my fence." Vasilisa again asked her tiny doll to help, and the next day they got everything ready together, completed all the tasks, and prayed that Baba Yaga would be happy. When the witch's grandmother returned that night, she went all around the hut, tapping with her pestle, looking underneath the table, flicking her index finger on surfaces, checking for dust, but pry and examine as much as she liked. She could find no reason to fault Vasilisa. She clapped her hands and shouted, "Come, my trusted servants, press the oil out of my poppy seeds." Instantly, three pairs of hands appeared, seized the measures of poppy seeds, and carried it away. That night, after she had eaten, Baba Yaga said, "Tomorrow, take one of the skulls from the fence outside and go." Vasilisa, sitting in a corner, staring at the glowing embers in the stove, nodded. She raised her head as if to speak, and looked down again. Baba Yaga looked at her and said, "What is it, girl? Speak out." Vasilisa said, "Grandmother, may I ask you something?" "Ask if you want, but remember, too much knowledge before your time does not make you wise, and some questions have answers that you may not like." Vasilisa hesitated, then said, "On my way here, I saw a horseman who was dressed in white. Who was he?" "He was my rising dawn," replied Baba Yaga. "Then I saw a second horseman dressed in red," continued Vasilisa. "Who was he?" "He was my bright day," Baba Yaga replied. "Then I saw a third horse rider dressed in midnight black. Tell me, baby Shaka, who was he?" asked Vasilisa. "That was my black knight," answered Baba Yaga. These horsemen are all loyal servants of mine. Do you have more questions to ask? Would you like to know who the three pairs of hands were, or whose skulls decorated my poles?" Vasilisa, wise as she was brave, recalled Baba's words and kept silent. After a pause, she said, "The three questions were enough for me. Knowing overmuch does not make you any wiser." "Well said, girl," said Baba Yaga, her eyes sparkling. "Now I have a question for you. Tell me, how were you able to, in such a short time, perfectly accomplish all the tasks I gave you?" Vasilisa thought about the doll in her pocket, her mother's precious legacy, and answered, "I am helped by my mother's love and blessing." This answer made Baba Yaga spring up. She had been tricked. She chased Vasilisa out of her house, screaming behind her, "Get out this moment! I won't have blessed daughters in my house." Baba Yaga unlocked the gate, grabbed a skull with burning eyes, threw it at Vasilisa, and said, "Here, take this fire and give it to your stepmother." Then she stormed back to her stove and stretched out beside it. Vasilisa put the skull on the end of a stick and ran through the forest, stumbling and falling, seeing her way by the skull's glowing eyes, and finally came out of it. When she reached her stepmother's house, she was, to her great surprise, welcomed warmly for the first time ever. Since she had been gone, there had been no light or fire in the house. The fire they brought from the neighbors would go out as soon as they carried it over the threshold. There was nothing to eat, and the house was like an ice box. As the stepmother greedily reached out for the skull, its eyes began to glimmer and glow like red hot coals. Before she could move away, a flame leaped out of the skull and enveloped her and set her on fire. Her daughters ran and tried to hide, but the flame followed them everywhere and burned them too. Nothing was left of them but three heaps of ash on the floor. Only Vasilisa was left unharmed. When the skull's fire had diminished, Vasilisa took the skull and buried it into a deep hole in the ground. Then she set out for the village nearby, where she found lodging with an old woman who was poor and childless. She stayed with her for many days, waiting for her father to return from the faraway town. She wanted to help the woman, so one day she told her, "Go and buy me the finest flax you can find." The old woman did as she was told, and Vasilisa wove with it the most exquisite linen cloth. It was fine and smooth, soft and white. Then she said to the old woman, "Take the linen to the market and sell it to the highest bidder. You have been kind to me. I want you to keep the money." When the old woman examined the linen, she said, "This linen is far too superior to be hawked in the bazaar. It is fit only for the tussar, and tomorrow I shall take it to his palace." Next day, the old woman went to the Tsar's splendid palace. She stood under his window, and when he saw her, he asked, "What do you want, old woman?" "O Tsar," the old woman answered, "I have brought a wonderful piece of linen for you, and I want you to have it." The Tsar ordered his guards to bring her before him, and when he saw the linen, he was very impressed. "What will you take for it, old woman?" he asked. "It is priceless, Betishuka," she answered. "I have brought it to you as a gift." The Tsar thanked the old woman, took the linen, and sent her home with many rich presents. Many tailors were called to make a shirt for the Tsar out of the linen cloth, but it was so fine that no one was deft and skillful enough to sew it. So at last the Tsar sent for the old woman. "Baby Shaka, since it was you who wove a cloth so fine, you must also know how to sew it," he said. "No, your majesty, it was not I who wove the linen. It is the work of a girl I gave shelter to," the old woman answered. "Take it to her then," the Tsar said, "and I asked her to sew some shirts for me." The old woman brought the linen home. Vasilisa made the shirts, and the old woman took them to the Tsar. Then Vasilisa sat at the window and waited to see what would happen next. Soon a servant from the palace came to the house and said, "The Tsar wishes to see for himself the clever needlewoman who has made his shirts. He would like to reward her personally." Vasilisa rose and went to the palace and was presented before the Tsar. As soon as the two saw each other, they fell in love. The Tsar took her by her hands and made her sit beside him. "Beautiful Vasilisa," he said, "please be my wife." Vasilisa agreed, and the two soon married. After some time, Vasilisa's father returned, and she invited